Hello, my name is Robin Berry. I am a prevention specialist here at the Southwest Council. We are a prevention, education, and treatment agency whose sole mission is to reduce the prevalent abuse of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs in Gloucester, Salem, and Cumberland counties. Today, we will be looking at a presentation entitled Grief and Loss. Loss is something that binds us together as human beings, and grief is a part of life that all of us will experience when we suffer loss. Whether it takes the form of someone's death, losing a job, a relationship, hopes, dreams, or other things that you value. Powerful feelings of grief and loss are so normal and natural that they are typically not given a diagnosis like other conditions such as anxiety or depression. There is no right way to grieve and no quick fix, but there are ways that you can help yourself to come to the terms with your loss. Let's start by defining what grief is. Grief is a natural response to loss. It's the emotional suffering you feel when something or someone you love is taken away. Often, the pain of loss can feel overwhelming. You may experience all kinds of difficult and unexpected emotions, from shock or anger to disbelief, guilt, and profound sadness. Grief can be described as the intense emotional and physical reaction that an individual experiences following the death of a loved one. Not only is grief characterized by deep sadness, but also by an intense yearning to be with that person again. Grief is natural. Grief is love that has no place to go. As we go through life, we experience a wide variety of losses for which we grieve. It is not possible to go through life without suffering losses. When we talk about loss, we often mean the death of someone that we love. It is important to acknowledge that people can also experience grief when confronted with other losses, such as the breakup of a relationship, the loss of an important role, such as a job, or the diagnosis of a life-changing illness. When someone dies, you might experience many losses. Part of grieving is about recognizing what you have lost, and loss comes with many changes that are not always immediately visible. There is the physical loss of the person and their presence, and other less tangible losses such as the loss of a shared life, consisting of the things you did together and for each other. The loss of a shared future together, including all your shared hopes, dreams, and plans for the future. The loss of your shared social life. The loss of all that your loved one did for you. They may have been the one who fixed problems around the house or who managed your finances. Among older adults, grieving the loss of a loved one can become a common occurrence. Even the strong at heart have a difficult time coming to terms with this reality. But grief is different for everyone. Shock and denial. Typically, shock and denial present in the days immediately following an event. In this stage, the mind elicits a protective response to traumatic events. One might feel numb, presenting almost no tears and emotions. This is accompanied by disbelief, where one might deny reality for a short period of time. While this behavior is confusing to watch, it's very normal. Disorganization. As denial fades and the reality of a traumatic event sets in, one might begin to check out from the ordinary processes of life. One can become fixated on the loss and abandon routines such as housekeeping, paying bills, and typical social activities. Disorganization can be confused for dementia. Anger. This stage is expressed through a feeling of resentment or hopelessness. Anger associated with grief is not often expressed through outbursts of emotions. Instead, you'll notice a constantly agitated demeanor. One might feel hurt and frustrated and misdirect that anger towards those around them. Guilt and bargaining. Guilt and bargaining can often coincide with the anger stage of grief. This stage is often referred to as the period of if onlys. Those experiencing guilt and bargaining will often try to put the blame on themselves and others, arguing that if only we had done this, then that would not have happened. They might also make appeals to religion, asking God to bring a loved one back or attempting to bargain with God. Physical or emotional distress. This stage of grief can be particularly dangerous to the affected person's physical and emotional health. Oftentimes, grieving individuals will begin to feel a sense of hopelessness. As they see others around them move on with daily life, they might begin to think that nobody cares. They might present symptoms such as shortness of breath and tightness of the throat associated with anxiety. This stage is also characterized by poor appetite, lack of energy, bad sleeping habits, and digestive problems. Depression. Keep in mind that depression can come hand in hand with the symptoms mentioned in the physical and emotional stress stage. Depression resulting from grief is characterized by a sense of unbearable self-pity. Despair will take a hold, and signs of depression may be evident. Loss and loneliness. This is the most painful stage of grief in older adults. This stage will often occur 2 to 4 weeks after the event, as the reality of the loss sets in. As one comes to terms with their situation, they might see regular problems in their life in a new light. Issues that used to be routine or small will be amplified. For example, someone who has struggled with high cholesterol for years without major complaints might make their high cholesterol into an essential and insurmountable issue without reason. They might also begin to find ways to fill the void that loss and grief has created. Filling the void can be done in both constructive and deconstructive ways. Withdrawal. Withdrawal is characterized by the complete detachment from regular social ties. At this stage, one is likely tired of explaining their loss to those around them. As a result, they avoid social interaction and regular community events that they would otherwise enjoy and rely on. Acceptance. This is the final stage of grief. New hope has emerged, replacing hopelessness and prompting constructive behavior. In order to fill the void, one might pick up new hobbies, start an activity to honor their loss, or reach out to friends and relatives. Regardless, they have realized that life goes on and have begun to find their own joy. There are 6 elements we need when we are in grief, and all are very important. Surround yourself with community, people who can support you, people who push you and encourage you. We need continued connections. Love never dies. Say their name, share their memories, stay connected to your loved one. Your grief does not define you. Our goal is to remember our loved one who has died with more love than pain, but in our own way and at our own pace. Honor your grief, but do not let it become you. Treat yourself as your best friend. Think of how the kindest person you know treats others, and that is how you should treat yourself. Be kind to yourself. Don't compare your grief. What people think of your grief is none of your business. Be gentle and true with yourself. You have to honor your own grief. Count your wins. This is where growth comes from. Think of the little wins. Think of being able to go out into public, take your dog for a walk, or even just get up out of bed to shower. Those little wins are part of your growth. Activities to help with grief. Spend time alone to think, remember, pray, meditate, soul search, and mourn. Talk to a trusted other who will listen with understanding to your thoughts and feelings. Develop a resource list, phone numbers of people and places to contact when the going gets tough. Find distractions to provide time out from the pain. Use physical nurture, massage, spa baths, early nights, and get some fresh air by going for short walks. Keep treasures, a memory box, a journal, a photo album. Create a memory book for family and friends to write stories, memories, messages. Create or build a special memento for your loved one, a garden, a CD or DVD, a photo album. Exercise to boost energy or to use excess adrenaline. Review pictures and mementos. Visit the burial site or some other special place. Rearrange and store the person's belongings, but only when you're ready to. Attend individual counseling or a support group. Find ways to honor the life of the person who has died. Prioritize daily tasks. Do only what is essential. Use an answering machine and choose who you will talk to. Record a message on the phone saying something like, "Thank you for your call, I appreciate it. I'll get back to you when I can." Write notes to relatives and friends when you need to tell aspects of your story or to express feelings. Keep a journal to record your thoughts and feelings, especially if you are unable to sleep. Holidays are clearly some of the roughest terrains we navigate after a loss. Finding meaning in the loss is as individual as we are. We often say a part of us died with them, but finding meaning is also realizing a part of them still lives within us. What is vitally important is that we be present for the loss in whatever form the holidays do or don't take. These holidays are part of the grieving journey that we must fully feel. They are usually very sad, but sometimes we may catch ourselves doing okay, and we may even have a brief moment of laughter. Now more than ever, be gentle with yourself. Don't do more than you want, and don't do anything that does not serve your soul, your loss, or the meaning that still lives within you. During the holidays, you may find these helpful. A prayer before the holiday dinner about your loved one. Light a candle for your loved one. Create an online tribute for them. Share a favorite story about your loved one. Have everyone tell a funny story about your loved one. After a loved one has passed away, you might find yourself in charge of clearing out their home or part of it. It's a daunting task to sort through all the mundane, everyday items, and it can be an emotional experience to encounter and make decisions about sentimental items, particularly while you are still in the early stages of your grief. No matter the size of the house or how much is in it, you'll most likely experience a range of emotions during the process. You might feel overwhelmed, lost, sad, angry, or even guilty, or several of those in tandem. Expecting the unexpected is one key to getting through this tough work. Try not to presume to know how it will affect you, and give yourself plenty of time to feel your emotions and take breaks. Some things to expect. Unexpected feelings of sadness, anger, or even guilt may arise throughout the process. The longer you worry about where or how to get started, the harder the task might seem. Giving yourself time, space, and compassion as you go through objects can help alleviate stress. Donating practical objects to people who could use them can assuage guilt. You can also always save objects by capturing them in a photograph. Just dive into the sorting. The longer you worry about where or how to get started, the harder the task might seem. Having a strategy in mind can help you tackle things systematically and help you stay on track throughout. For example, you could decide to sort through items room by room, or make a list of sentimental items and recover those first. A plan is particularly useful if you're going to have help, so you'll all be on the same page from the outset. Even though it's potentially tempting to power through and just get it done, build in some time to reflect and feel those moments that are emotional. Maybe you can sit down to a lunch at a certain time and share with your family what you experienced, or anything interesting you might have found. Or you can plan to go on a walk after you tackle each particularly large task. Give yourself as much time as you can allow to get this done, so that you are adding stress to your emotional roller coaster. Try not to make this stuff a shrine. People often report feeling guilty about taking apart their loved one's house, especially if it was also their own childhood home. This is, after all, where the person built the life they lived, often surrounded by stuff that held meaningful memories. It can be hard to repress the instinct to preserve everything as they left it in order to avoid the idea that they are gone. However, it's important to get past this feeling and remember that for the most part, this is just, well, stuff. Of course, there are things you'll personally find sentimental value in, and items that other people might cherish, but that spatula, probably not. That stack of mail, probably not. Your loved one would have gone through it and thrown it, most of it, away. You don't want to wallow in the guilt you might feel, because ultimately, this is one of the tasks on a long list of things that might happen parallel to processing your grief. Donate to those in need. One way to assuage difficult emotions during this work is to give practical objects like kitchen utensils and appliances, books, or even clothing to people who could use them. Chances are that everyone in your immediate family already has a can opener, so why not donate your loved ones to the local women's shelter to help someone stock their new home? In donating, you're honoring your loved one's memory by giving those everyday items a new purpose. As you go through the objects, ask yourself if an item is in good enough condition to serve someone else for a significant amount of time. If the answer is yes, place it in a box for donations. If the answer is no, give yourself permission to toss it. Remember that every item your loved one owned is part of their estate, and by the letter of the law, it will all be divided up amongst their heirs and beneficiaries. If you intend to donate any items, make sure that everyone who has say in the division of the property agrees to this. Under the supervision of the executor, hold on to a few items. While you don't want to bring a bunch of stuff home with you that you will wind up cluttering your own home, you also should feel perfectly okay with adopting some items. Again, make sure that all beneficiaries agree to a fair division of any items that you decide to keep. Choose a few things that will remind you of your loved one and help you honor the time you spent together. It might be a piece of artwork that you've always admired or a blanket you shared movie nights under, but try to tie the things you want to keep to a specific memory. By applying this emotional lens to objects, you will be able to decide what truly matters to your relationship with your loved one. For everything else that gives you nostalgic feelings, or stuff you might want to keep simply because it reminds you of the person you love, remember that you can always take a photo of these objects and look at the photos whenever you want. Then you can feel good about giving away or throwing away this stuff and holding on to the images. One important thing to keep in mind throughout the whole process of clearing out your loved one's home is that we, as humans, often collect things that we do not provide us with any meaningful joy. Think about your own home. Would you want someone to keep all those empty glass jars you've collected over the years? Not really. You'd be totally okay with those getting thrown away. Your loved one would most likely feel similarly about the stuff in their home. It's just stuff. What really matters is the memories you have with them and how you carry these forward into the future. Many grieving people wonder if they would benefit from joining a support group. Support groups are a time-tested method of help for people struggling with all sorts of difficulties. But groups are not magic. There are no words that can be uttered within a group setting that can make grief disappear. Groups are places to work together and support one another. They are places where everyone gives and takes. Not everyone will find a support group suitable. Each individual grieves in his or her own way. For many, however, support groups have much to offer, such as validation. Grief is experienced in so many ways: physical, emotional, and spiritual. One needs a place to recognize that these reactions are part of the journey of grief. Being with other grieving people can reaffirm that one is not going crazy. While every loss is unique, through support groups, one can bask in the support of others who have experienced loss and understand. Time away. For many people, a support group can be a break from the loneliness and the boredom that often comes with grief. Suggestions for coping. There is no single solution to dealing with loss, but members of a support group can offer a range of alternatives. By listening to stories of how others cope with a particular problem, one can find the solution that might work best. Support groups offer two other gifts. They provide hope by providing models that reaffirm that one can survive loss. Participating in a support group can help the griever find new empathy, new understandings, and renewed strength. How to find a support group. Most hospices provide grief support groups that are open to those who didn't use hospice services. Funeral homes, hospitals, and places of worship will also have grief support resources and may be able to help you locate a support group. There are also national grief support organizations with local chapters that host support groups. I have a list on the next page of some support group websites that you may find helpful. Group support. Support after the death of a child. Support after the death of a senior. Support for men grieving a loss. Support for suicide survivors. Support for adults grieving a loss. And there are many more types of support groups. If you need more information on grief and loss, or if you are searching for a support group, I would be happy to help. Again, my name is Robin Berry, and I'm from the Southwest Council. I can be reached by phone at 794-1011, extension 307, or I can be reached by email, robin@southwestcouncil.org. I would like to leave you with these words by Megan Devine, author of It's Okay That You're Not Okay. You alone carry the knowledge of how your grief lives in you. You alone know all the filaments of life and of love that fly through you. You alone know how deeply your life is now changed. You alone have to face this inside your own heart. I hope my presentation has helped you in some way. Thank you for listening.